just controlling what you control. And I think that's your attitude and your effort, being a good person, being a good teammate, being good to your coaches, and just having respect for the people around you, because hopefully if you're in the right space, those people should be trying to all raise each other up and make each other better.
In this never-ending game of life, victories and defeats define our existence in a cycle of ups and of downs. Brace yourself for a journey beyond the ordinary as we dive into the heart of humanity. I am Jenna Galloway, your host and fellow collegiate athlete. Join me on the relentless pursuit of unraveling the untold stories of athletes, exploring the depths of their triumphs, and discovering where they channel the glory that transcends both the game they play and the very essence of life itself. Welcome to the Glory Beyond the Game podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the Glory Beyond the Game. I'm your host, Jenna Galloway, and I'm here with
Megan Kraft.
Megan Kraft. We're so excited for this episode today, just to dive into Megan, her life, her backstory. She's got a lot of things to share about. She's here a senior on the USC beach volleyball team. She's won 3 national championships. Super, super impressive. So we're going to dive into that a little bit later. She's also gone international, playing pro. And on top of all of that, she's living out her faith, her Catholic faith here in volleyball and just in college. And there's a lot to unpack here. So I'm super excited for this episode. Hope you guys are too. Thank you for joining us today. And to start, Megan, just tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background and where you're from and, even your parents. And yeah, just give us a little bit of an intro.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited. I'm from San Diego. I grew up there. And my parents still live there, so it's definitely home. And LA also it's really nice to be here and not be too far from home. My parents were both Catholic, and I grew up Catholic, but my faith really grew when I went to SC, and they really are a big part of my life. I'm really close with both of them, which is great. And then, they supported me in sports. They've supported me in school. In faith, and kind of just the way they live their lives is inspiring to me, and it's who I look up to, and they're role models in a lot of the ways in my life. So definitely have had a really good upbringing, and I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a little bit from your background. So you're from San Diego, and you're now here at USC, and that's by the grace of beach volleyball. So how did that transition work? When you're younger, you started indoor volleyball. How young were you?
Yeah, I probably started indoor volleyball like first grade. So
first grade,
I don't even
really,
know how old, yeah.
really young.
Yeah,
right away. And then you transitioned to beach volleyball.
Yeah, probably 8th grade.
Okay, more towards like almost high school.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And I knew that took off right away, right? Would you say you were immediately in love with it, or?
Yeah, I really liked beach. It was like I really liked indoor too, but something about beach, being able to touch the ball every play and learn all the skills and not just be specific in one where some indoor players are. I really enjoyed it, and the physical side of it too. So yeah, it was definitely what I wanted. I knew I wanted to do it kind of, probably a year into playing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. A lot of people make that switch from indoors and then to outdoors. Mm-hmm. Can you walk us through, how did you go from indoors to outdoors, and kind of what was some of the things that you learned, moving from indoors being, 6-man team, having that team aspect, being able to be benched, then you're going out to the outdoors and it's 2v2 and just you and your partner. There's not really a bench. It's really the game. Winning and losing is all up to you. So can you explain kind of your personal experience on that?
Yeah. Indoor is great. I think I was kind of thinking about it earlier. I was saying everybody I think that plays volleyball should play indoor to start, because you learn how to be on a team and you learn it's more than 6 players. I mean, there's 6 players on the court, but there's probably 12 or more than 12 on your team. So it's learning how to be a good teammate, how to be okay with getting beat out, and then, working hard to beat out that person again. And it's like, you gotta, people are going to work harder than you, and the best will play. So I think that's a good mentality to start with. And then, like you said, you get out to the beach and it's 2v2. There's no bench. You're out there, and whether you're struggling or not, you have to finish the game. You have to play it. So I really like that part of it, because it brings in the whole mental side of sport that maybe indoor, you could get subbed out, you could take a break, you could reset completely. Whereas on the beach, like you got to figure it out in 10 seconds before the next whistle blows. So I think that part of it I really liked. I liked being mentally tough, and sometimes being mentally tough can win games in the beach, where indoor, you could sub someone out, you could give them a break, they could probably bounce back. But the beach is really unique in that way, and I think some other sports are similar to it, but the fact that it's you and one other person is really unique to any sport, and so I think that's what I really fell in love with about it.
Yeah. And I can imagine now sitting here as a senior on the USC beach volleyball team, USC also, and you've played pro. There's a lot of different stages you've been on, but going back to first grade, the pressure wasn't that big, the stakes weren't that high. So from that point in first grade to now, what do you think, or how do you think you've learned to kind of deal with that pressure and also manage that mental aspect, to not give up if you're benched, to not give up if you don't get on the team you want or play with the person you want or the win that you wanted,
Right. Yeah. I always think back to I guess I was 13U. So I was on like a 12U team, like the 12 ones team for indoor. It was a good team. It was the same coach. So then the next year was the same coach, and he cut me for 13's ones. So I went and played on the twos team, and I remember telling my parents, I'm like, I don't want to play on the twos. Like, I'm done. I want to do something else, basically. And my parents, thank goodness they did, but they were like, go play on the twos, go get better, go start and be able to play every game. And I did, and I loved it, and I got way better than I would have, playing maybe a little bit on the ones team. And then the next year with the same coach, I was able to get back on his team and on the ones team and play and make an impact to the team. And it was I think I definitely owe a lot to my parents. They were both in the military, and they kind of have that hard work kind of trumps all. And if you just basically, your team is whatever it is, but it's kind of how, like, whatever happens to you is going to happen. You can't control it, but what you can't control is how hard you work after it, or you can control not giving up. You can control putting in as much effort as you can and your attitude. So they taught that to me, and I'm really grateful they kept me in volleyball. And I was grateful to be able to come back and learn from that same coach who cut me. And he's now like one of the best coaches I've had. When I look back on my career, I guess I'm like so grateful that he cut me, because it just created me into the person I am today, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah, from all the way back to first grade, and then getting cut, and then being able to get back on the team, then beach kind of started, and I really loved the beach, and that's when I kind of parted from indoor. But
yeah,
it was just like, if that didn't happen to me, I don't think I would be as either successful as I am today, or I might not even be playing volleyball. So it's like crazy to look back on it. And I think it's all, like, I look back on it, that's the one thing I think, if there's a reason, like if there's an explanation to somebody, like God has a plan, that was 100% it. Because in the moment, I remember just crying and crying. I'm like, I can't believe it. I was just like really, really devastated. And then now I'm like, if that didn't happen, I would not be here at all. So
yeah, that's amazing. And truly, that's also a reflection of like how important your support system is. You know, whether it's you have a blessing of parents who are, you know, in the military and have these core values that they learned, and now, you know, you're at a tough point and they can push you beyond, you know, the point that you thought was possible, to really get up and say, no, this is why we need to keep going. This is how you're going to keep going. You know, so that just kind of speaks volumes to like the importance of having people around you that are going to, you know, push you to the next level and help you realize that, you know, emotions aren't always necessarily like, you know, it's like, oh, you know, they don't like me just because they cut you. It's like, no, like there's more to that. And, and like you said, God has a plan, you know, that's also part of it, right? There's reasons that things happen to us, and we have to kind of just take it, okay, how can I react? Necessarily, you know, like couldn't control what happened, but how can I control my reaction to the situation?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's amazing how first grade, you know, even just, or at a point so young in your life, and how you just, now it's affecting you now, and you're in your adult life and you've experienced so much. So kind of a transition back to the beach world. Now you're in 8th grade and you started picking up beach. And I know that even at a young age, 16, right? It was in your first international
Yeah, I was
tournament.
16.
Yeah. So can you explain? You went to China, right? Can you expand on, you started this new sport, beach volleyball, and now you're playing with a partner, and you had this opportunity to play internationally. Kind of what was going through, mentally in your head, and how did you approach that? Just the whole experience internationally, playing such a big stage, and for the first time, you know.
Yeah, I think so. As part of basically, we did a trials. My partner and I did a trials to qualify for this U19 World Championship, which was in Nanjing, China. And we were young, like we were both 16. My partner was 16, about to turn 17. So we were young for U19. And it was kind of underdog tournament. We played really well and we qualified for this tournament. So yeah, we go to China with a group of, one other women's team, 2 other men's teams, and had no expectations really, and we did. And we went out there and we qualified in the tournament, which is hard to do, and we were proud of that. And then got pretty far in the tournament. I think we got 9th before getting knocked out. But it was just a really cool experience because I was able to see all the different countries that had these people pretty much our age, a little bit older, but pretty much our age, representing their country while playing beach volleyball, and they were so good. And they were it was cool to meet different people because as 16, I had really never traveled. I don't think I had traveled outside of the U.S. And it was so cool to be able to kind of broken English talk to them, learn about their experiences, what they do. Like, do they go to school? Are they training full time? Like some of them are already full on going for volleyball. So anyway, it was really cool to meet all those people. And it made me realize it's like, this is what I want to do. This is such a cool experience, and getting to travel internationally in general, let alone without volleyball, is already a cool experience. And then having volleyball on top of it just made it something. It kind of clicked in my head. I was like, this is it, and I really, really want to pursue this. And so I think I'm really grateful that we were able to qualify. And even though we didn't win the tournament, it was the first little toe in the water of international play, and it was something that I now am really grateful I had, because it's kind of the inspiration of what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, playing at such a young age, 16, internationally, that was your first tournament, and that's just a test to now where you are now and what you've experienced, especially even you making that transition from high school to now USC college level, D1. Now we're ranked number 1 in the nation for beach volleyball. And so kind of your personal experience, but also an external view, however you would like to respond to this, is how was that balance? How was the transition entering, your freshman year during COVID, trying to play at this D1 level, but also having international inexperience and kind of balancing both, as I can imagine you're doing both at the same time. How was that balance, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah. So I came in, in 2021, I guess 2020 and 2021, and we luckily had a season during COVID, but it was a weird one. And I remember thinking about it, reflecting on it. It just felt normal. Like everything that we were doing was like, oh, this is the normal thing. And all of the seniors on our team were like, this is not normal. Like we had like our courts so spaced out. We had to wear masks under our chin. It was just like testing every week. We were basically trying to keep our bubble so no one got sick and we didn't have to forfeit games. And our seniors were just like, this is not normal. But to me, I was just like, this is college volleyball, and this is what I expect. So yeah, we had a lot of seniors on that team that year that also came back, like seniors and grad students, I guess, that were able to come back the next year and finish out. But I played with actually 4 different partners my freshman year, and I ended up playing on the ones with Tina from Latvia, and she got 4th in the Tokyo Olympics. So she was a really, really good beach volleyball player, but she was also just taught me so much about the game. I learned, like, every time I stepped on the court with her, I just felt so lucky to be able to play with her. and I was learning from her constantly. And she was definitely kind of somebody that now as a senior, I hope that I embody in like the way that she led the team. She was very much, she wasn't quite in charge of all the logistics and all the sending out plans and dealing with, whatever drama might be happening. She was more just kind of like showing up, doing what everyone expected her to do, and then going a little bit over, but kind of silently, not talking about it, just kind of doing it. And so I kind of tried to embody her. I obviously look up to her as a role model when I was a freshman, and even now while she's playing international and will probably qualify for the Olympic Games this year too. So they were just, it was great to have so much leadership on the team freshman year, and they also taught you about the student-athlete balance, and it was a tough one, and during COVID it was weird, and then kind of got a real taste of it sophomore year where you have in-person class, and it's like, whoa, this is a lot. So I think I learned about the balance, I learned about time management, and then junior year and this year when I've also been juggling international tournaments with my USA partner, I feel like what I learned earlier in my 4 years about management and time management and communication has really been a big role in kind of balancing international play and making it all work and still trying to give 100% of everything I have to kind of each different thing that I'm a part of, whether it's school or the international tournament or USC. So I definitely have, learned, constantly learning, still learning about that and the time management, but it's been thanks to a lot of good leaders that we've had, and a big part of it is the culture that our USC team has, and that's kind of shaped me into the person I am now as a senior.
Yeah, that's amazing. Can you, to take a step back, you said your USA partner, so can you explain just kind of the journey with her and, how she, did she pick you up? She found you, correct? Yeah. So kind of how did that come about, and when was that in terms of your USC career as well?
Right. Yeah, I was a sophomore, probably like the fall of my sophomore year. I had a pretty good, our team won the national championship when I was a freshman. I had a pretty good year. I felt like I improved a lot from when I came in to the end of that year. And so this veteran player kind of reached out to me. I had been training with a coach that she trained with a couple years ago, and she started working with the coach, and so that's how we connected. He was like, "Oh, you should reach out to this girl. She's kind of new. Like people maybe don't know about her, but I think she has potential, basically." So I owe a lot to him for taking a chance on me and having kind of vouching for me. So then I was able to. So she picked me up, and I was really excited. She was a really, really great teammate and leader and volleyball player, obviously. So I learned a lot from her. We traveled a whole bunch, and even though we weren't winning tournaments necessarily and we weren't the best USA team, like I would not replace what I did with her for anything, because I learned so much about just like the lifestyle of beach volleyball players, and it's hard and it's a grind to be able to go travel 13 hours and then the next day playing a qualifier that's lose or go home, and you could be making no money from the tournament. So just kind of like learning about all the ins and outs, the best way to do it, kind of planning a schedule, planning your weightlifting and your conditioning and your practices. So I just learned a lot from her, and I'm really, really grateful that she kind of took a chance on me, and she ended up retiring last, I guess, a couple months ago, actually.
Wow.
And she was, she was older, and she retired. So it ended really well between us, which is like the best thing you want. You don't want it to end poorly between you and your partner. Yeah. And so now I have a new USA partner that after I'm done at SC in a couple months, we're going to go play international. And obviously the Olympics are this year. So not going for the Olympics this year, but kind of just starting to build, points, build team chemistry with this, with my partner. And the next goal is 2028. Obviously it's far away, but that's kind of how it goes after the next cycle. So definitely owe a lot to the partner that picked me up in sophomore year, and then being able to go to so many countries, and just, even though we weren't winning, I was learning every single time, and especially learning from the losses too. So I think it's helped me be a better volleyball player, but also be kind of savvy with the traveling, and then and take that into hopefully the next push for 2028.
Yeah, that's big dreams, and that's what we're, especially at USC, that's what you're shooting for, and there's a lot of mental game that you talked about that comes with that. And so I'm just curious, obviously 16 years old, you had a lot different mentality than you do now, especially after learning and absorbing so much from someone that's older than you and took you, I guess, kind of under her wing in a sense, and playing international and learning about all these different cultures and how people are playing differently or living differently than you are. What is one of the biggest things that you learned mentally traveling with this older partner and traveling and competing at such an intense level? What would you say for the mental game? One of the biggest takeaways you got.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think everyone's different. I was thinking about this, how I was going through kind of the top women's teams right now for the USA. And one team is like best friends off the court. I think they live together. Maybe they're the same age. They went to college together. Like they've been through it for like 5 years together, and they make it work. They're the best team in the US right now. And then the second best team I actually both went to USC. They played together at USC. Then they broke up because they really didn't like each other. Like it just wasn't working. And then recently came back together, and I see them more as now like business partners. So they don't hang out outside of volleyball, but they go on the court and they're really, really good together. And so I think like with my partner, obviously we had such a big age gap. Like I was 18, 19, 20 when I played with her, and she was like 34, 35. So there weren't many things that we could talk about that like were super relatable to each other, I would say. But when we got on the court, it was just kind of like we knew what we expected of each other. I was trying to constantly show that I was trying to learn from her and what she wanted. And I think she did a really good job of kind of helping direct me. And so it worked in that way, but we weren't best friends off the court, obviously. And I think that's okay. And I think some of the men, especially on the men's side, like they're not friends off the court, but they show up and they just get what needs to be done and then they leave. Yeah. So I think that kind of taught me, because maybe in the juniors you play with your friend and like it's just fun.
Your mom drives you, and
right?
You're like, okay,
yeah, it's like almost just like you're just hanging out. But now that partnership kind of taught me like it's okay to not be this close with your partner and buddy, and as long as you communicate well on the court and obviously you have some respect for each other. You can't obviously be like, you're not good, whatever. Like you need to, have trust in each other that you're going to do your job that you expect of one another. But it really taught me that, like mentally, be tough, because she kind of had like harsh and tough love sometimes, but I couldn't take it personally because I knew she just wanted the best for the team. So that was definitely something I learned from her, especially as we traveled and we were in hotel rooms for 7 weeks in a row, and you got to find time to be separate and then also find time to just sometimes sit in silence, and it just got to be comfortable with not necessarily being 100% best friends.
Yeah. There's a lot of moving aspects to beach volleyball that I think a lot of people don't know about. So it's kind of really, really interesting to hear the insights of, the strategies of, okay, who's your partner and what's your relationship with them, and also the mental game of, how you're going to approach that, and a lot of stuff like that. And I think another important aspect to that is culture, team culture. Like when you go pro, it's a little bit different, obviously, right? You're saying it's just you and your partner, but, now you also... The past 4 years, you've had to deal with these multiple teammates and switching teammates and seniors graduating, new freshmen coming in, transfers, etc. So I would say to jump back, kind of to the USC culture, how has, what is that like? Again, like there's two different things, being pro and just with you and your partner, and then with, having a whole team and jumping partners and stuff like that. So kind of what is USC's culture, especially having 3 national championships under their belt, shooting for 4, right?
Right.
Kind of what is that culture that's off the court that kind of helps drive you guys, not to, go head to head, but to really like keep going and just have the right mentality, but also have good relationship with each other and all people on the team.
Yeah, it's definitely the culture. I think is what makes the team and what makes the winning team. Honestly, because there's a lot of teams in college beach volleyball that are probably just as talented as us. Honestly, so the culture is, I would say, like the iron sharpens iron mentality. We go really hard at practice. We kind of beat each other up. You try to freaking smoke somebody in practice, and then when you get off the court, you're friends. Like you respect each other, that you frustrated each other and you got each other better. And sometimes it's hard. Some days it's harder than others. You're like, man, that girl would not stop serving me. And like, but it made you better. And if it makes you better, then that's like the whole point. So I think, honestly, everyone is really, really close on the team. We've never really had problems with cliques or anything like that, which I'm really grateful for. Even as, people leave and new freshmen come in. So that's been huge. But I think part of it just comes from the respect we have for each other. And again, you're not always going to be best friends with every single girl on the team, but if you can respect each other and you can be cordial and you can be nice to each other, just be a good person to each other, then usually it works out pretty well. When you have to switch partners, you got to play with different people. And if everyone's trying to push each other to get better and everyone's trying to beat each other out, then ideally, your top player is going to be like, okay, I got to do a little better to stay at the top. And then the bottom players are just always constantly rising. So I think that culture is what embodies our team. And I think it's why we've been successful and hopefully continue to be successful, just kind of pushing each other to the max, but also respecting each other as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, respect is a really big deal. Again, it goes even back to the simplest form in like first grade. It's like not taking things personally and like lessons that you learned so young that you really gotta put your emotions to the side and realize that you're trying to fight for something more and you're trying to fight for, your spot. And that doesn't necessarily, it's not about you, like there's other people that will take your place in a second. So it's really like, what are you going to do? What are you going to bring to the court? And how can you also respect that the same, a girl doing the same thing right next to you, and I think in a lot of things that you're talking about, like, and being so devoted in your faith, there's a lot of, I'm imagining that has a really big role in all of this and in really your bringing up in USC and everything. So can you expand and your Catholic faith? I know that, once you got here, it kind of, you're more involved and there's things. Can you walk us through your story in terms of your faith?
Yeah. I started, obviously, I was born Catholic. Both my parents were Catholic, so I was baptized, went through all the things. I was, I never really went away from the church, but I definitely wasn't, in high school, I wasn't so involved already. But when I got to college, the Caruso Center right outside of USC was really, a missionary reached out to me. We had like a female athlete Bible study and my freshman year, and it was just, I kind of didn't really know that those existed, or I kind of didn't know that daily mass was offered, and I didn't so I was just learning, obviously, and found that a lot of peace in going to Bible study and kind of having a couple female athlete friends outside of my team, but also I really enjoyed going to daily mass when I could, and going to adoration and confession, and I really just got back into the faith and grew even more. And the whole community there has been amazing, and it's definitely a place I go to for resetting my mind, for a break from the team, for a break from school. And I think it's been a huge part in my athletic life, having that part of me that's not volleyball, it's not school, it's just me. It's just a person that God created and is hoping that they can just be the best person that they can be. And it's really nice to have an identity outside of volleyball. And sometimes it's hard to remember that I do. And I think the faith and all the support I've had from the Caruso Center it's reminded me of that. And I think it's always a great feeling to just play for something other than yourself and play for God, play for your team. And I think that's kind of like part of where the culture comes from, at least from what I give to the team. It's more of I'm playing for not myself at all. Like I might be playing for you, I'm playing for you, and it's not about me, it's about the team winning. And then it's not about me, it's about trying to be the best athlete and sportsman I can be, just to glorify God in the whole aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much more to life than our sports, but it's just, the higher level you go, you realize like, wow, it's really, really hard to separate your identity and the sport you do 24/7 from, the person that you are, that you're trying to become.
Yeah.
And with that, there comes a lot of pressures, and wanting to not, and like, wow, you really want to like try to give up, there's so many bumps in the road that makes you want to give up, but faith obviously has a really big role. So I guess a question for me on that subject is kind of like, what is something that in the past 4 years, specifically here at USC, what is something that you've, a big struggle that you've dealt with that kind of your faith has helped you push through to not give up and to keep going, if anything comes to mind?
Yeah. I think probably the hardest thing I've struggled with in my time at SC is just the balance of school, not only school and sports, but also kind of the balance of maybe outside of that and like the social scene. It's always been kind of not necessarily my thing, but my teammates enjoy it, or some of my friends from class enjoy it, and it's just like finding peace in that it's not my thing, but I can still be a good teammate when I see them and just respectfully decline, or I guess some of the struggle has been feeling like I'm disappointing someone or they are judging me if I don't just kind of go in with what everyone else is doing. And I've struggled with that, and I've struggled with wanting to please everybody, and try to be there for everybody at the same time. But if it's not necessary, and now as a senior, I've realized kind of what my thing is, and my teammates kind of know it too. They know what I like, they know what I don't like, and I hope that as I've also grown and evolved, they never felt that I was judging them in their decisions off the court, on the court, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I hope that I in my brain too I'm never kind of short to or slow to anger, and with a lot of patience, and I think just finding confidence in who I am, and then but also not putting someone else down for whatever they might want to do. So I think that's been a struggle as I've gone from freshman year to senior year, and hopefully the past couple of years I've gotten better at it. But just finding out who I kind of just evolving into the person I want to be.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, being okay with me maybe being different from what the crowd is doing, or being okay with doing exactly what the crowd is doing. And you don't have to always be alone. You don't always have to be part of something. It's okay to stay at home. It's okay to join a group. I guess kind of just finding the peace in all that, and finding where I belong and what makes me happy and what makes me comfortable, and surrounding myself with the people that I really, really just enjoy being around and love.
Yeah. Yeah, the support system, and also like the affirmation, like, the word, the Bible, and what God tells us, that it's like, it's okay. Like, this is the way that I made you and created you to be. And you don't have to, we're all unique in our own way, and we have our own interests and likes and dislikes, and there's just so much power to what he has to say, in our word. And I know that's part of your story too, like just how much the power that God's word has worked in your life, especially in your volleyball experience. So I would say, what is one memory or just thing that comes to mind, and when I say like the word has really helped you push through, like either losing or just really struggling with your sport?
Yeah. Freshman year, my missionary gave me a book called Compete Inside, and it was just like 100 prayers for athletes, basically, really short, like 1 page each. But there was there was a ton of prayers that so we have like a 5-minute kind of meditation before we start our warm up, especially on game days. Our team has always done that. And so during that 5 minutes, I would just whip out the book and just like kind of flip through. It was kind of titled with, like a topic of the prayer. So it could be like patience. It could be dealing with losing, deal with an injury. Like, it was very broad topic of prayers that you could reflect on. But I would just kind of flip through and find one that felt relevant for that game. Maybe if I was feeling nervous, if I was feeling anxious or excited and really hyped up or whatever. Yeah. But I think finding like those prayers that now I have some just completely memorized, and as I'm warming up, or even like while I'm walking out to the court to go play, I'm kind of just repeating it in my head. I find that repetitive prayers, like ones that I don't necessarily need to come up with, but ones that are kind of ingrained in memory and meditative, really help me focus, at least for volleyball, and also focus my mind if I'm thinking about a whole bunch of different things. So that's been something that's really helped me calm my nerves before games, because I always get really nervous. And once I start playing, it's fine. It's just kind of the lead up to it. I have, two kind of things of advice that I personally am still working on. The first being prayer, and daily prayer, especially. All throughout high school and even freshman year, I wasn't great at this. But now, as I'm doing it more and it's become a habit, I really find a lot of value in it. And I think it helps me focus on the next thing, whether it's in a volleyball point or a game, or it's in school, or it's even talking to somebody, and trying to really focus on what they need and how I can help them. Prayer has been a great resource for me, and it also really helps me remember the things I'm grateful for, and practice gratitude. Just thinking of things that maybe would go over my head any other day of the week, but sometimes I wake up and I'm like, wow, I'm really grateful I woke up. I'm really grateful I have an able body to go exercise.
You forget that simple thing.
Forget it, yeah. A roof over my head when it's raining, like stuff like that. It's just, it's the little things, but when you kind of look into that in that way, it's like the perspective is huge. And then, whether I lose a volleyball game, it's not quite the biggest deal that it might feel like if maybe I didn't have that perspective. So that's one big thing I'm still trying to work on, but definitely have felt a big impact from. And then the second is just controlling what you can control. Sometimes you might just straight up get beat out by a player, and you worked as hard as you can. And in that moment, I would say give it up to God, because it's probably part of God's plan if you really worked as hard as you could and you used every resource that he gave you. You used your support system, you did everything you could, and you just got beat out, or you just didn't quite achieve what you wanted. I think it's all part of God's plan, and sometimes you need to go a little down before you can go up. So I've definitely experienced that, and I hope that I can always remember that. And it's always easier said than done when you're on the high, saying like, oh yeah, I'll remember that when it gets hard. But just controlling what you control. And I think that's your attitude and your effort, being a good person, being a good teammate, being good to your coaches, and just having respect for the people around you, because hopefully if you're in the right space, those people should be trying to all raise each other up and make each other better.
Yeah. That's amazing, especially at such a high level, and how high of a stage you get to, it's like you can forget. It's like, no, it's a blessing to have food in front of me. It's a blessing to have a roof over my head. It's like, wow, I didn't win. I got second place at this national championship or whatever. Or we got second at even national championships. Right. It's like, wow, it's a blessing to have, breath and wake up today. So
Agreed.
Just gratitude is such a big thing, and prayer is just such a powerful thing. So thank you, Megan, for the advice, for coming out today and just sharing your story, and really just being with us today.
Thank you.
We wish Megan the best of luck this season. Season starts tomorrow. They're going to Hawaii, but just check USC Beach, right?
Yeah, USC Beach. Instagram.
We'll
have updates.
To see where they're at and when they're playing, and go support. Thank you, Megan, for your story, for the advice, and just for coming out today.
Thank you.
Hope all the viewers or listeners just enjoyed Megan's story and what she had to say. Check the Insta for more updates. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you prefer. Can keep coming back for more episodes and share with your friends and family. Thank you, and bye.